The observation deck of the Wandering Star hummed with the quiet efficiency of a diplomatic vessel. Ambassador Jonas Vale stood by the viewing port, watching the swirl of hyperspace paint impossible colors across the reinforced glass. Behind him, the delegation from the Krell Empire waited with the characteristic stillness of apex predators. The Krell were magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Standing nearly 8 feet tall on digitigrade legs, their bodies were covered in iridescent scales that shifted from deep crimson to obsidian black. Their faces were elongated, almost reptilian, with rows of translucent teeth designed to tear through the toughest hides in their home system. They had ruled their corner of the galaxy for millennia, expanding through conquest and intimidation. Humanity had encountered them 3 months ago. The galaxy had held its breath, waiting for war. Ambassador Vale, the Krell matriarch, Eshral, spoke in her species' clicking, hissing tongue, translated instantly by his neural implant. Our young one grows restless. The journey is long for one so new to the stars. Jonas turned and smiled warmly. Of course, matriarch. Perhaps some entertainment would help? That was when he noticed Cub Curlin, barely adolescent by Krell standards, watching him with those predatory golden eyes. The cub's tail swished with barely contained energy, claws flexing against the polished deck. Among the Krell, Curlin was a pup, but to human eyes the creature was still a formidable predator, easily 6 feet tall with developing musculature that promised lethal power. Jonas had studied Krell culture extensively. Play was how they learned, play was how they bonded. Play was how they established hierarchy. Would Cub Curlin like to explore the recreation area? Jonas offered. I can accompany him. The Krell delegation exchanged glances, their neck frills rippling with what Jonas had learned to interpret as surprise. Eshral's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. You would play with our cub, human? I would be honored. The recreation area was a vast space designed for multiple species, with varying gravity zones and environmental controls. Jonas led Curlin to a neutral section, the cub's movements becoming more animated with each step, like a coiled spring gradually releasing. Show me what your kind does for fun, Jonas said, crouching down to a less threatening posture. Curlin tilted his head, processing. Then, with a sudden explosive movement characteristic of his species, he pounced. It was instinctive, playful, the way young predators tested their skills. Jonas didn't flinch. He'd expected this. The cub's claws were retracted, a sign of play, not aggression, but his jaws opened wide, revealing those needle-sharp teeth. In a flash, Curlin's mouth clamped down on Jonas's forearm and stopped. The cub bit down harder, confusion rippling through his young features. His teeth, designed to puncture the armored hides of his homeworld's megafauna, couldn't penetrate. Jonas's skin compressed slightly, reddened, but didn't break. The human's expression remained calm, almost amused. Curlin released and stepped back, head cocking at an extreme angle, a Krell expression of profound bewilderment. Your your skin, the cub stammered in broken standard. It does not tear. Jonas rolled his sleeve up further, showing the faint indentations already fading. Human skin is remarkably resilient, Curlin. We evolved on a death world. Everything there tried to kill us, so we adapted. Death world? The cub's translator struggled with the concept. Earth, Jonas explained patiently. Extreme temperatures, constant environmental changes. Predators, parasites, diseases that evolved alongside us in an endless arms race. Our bodies became durable. Curlin reached out tentatively, running a claw along Jonas's arm. The human skin dimpled but didn't cut. The cub's eyes widened. You are soft, but not weak. Exactly, Jonas grinned. We're persistence hunters, Curlin. We don't have your speed or your claws or your teeth. But we don't break easily. We don't give up. We endure. The cub processed this, his predatory instincts wrestling with this new information. In Krell culture, prey was either armored or fast. Humans appeared to be neither, yet they couldn't be wounded by a playful bite. It violated everything Curlin understood about the natural order. Try again, Jonas offered. I don't mind. This time, Curlin bit with real force, the kind that would have shattered bone in most species. Jonas felt the pressure, the points of those terrible teeth finding the strongest points of contact. His skin turned white under the pressure, then red, but still didn't rupture. The human's pain tolerance, honed by millions of years of evolutionary pressure, kept his expression neutral. When Curlin released this time, there was something different in his eyes. Not confusion. Respect. You let me, the cub said slowly. You could have stopped me. But you let me learn. Yes. Why? Jonas sat down cross-legged, and after a moment, Curlin mirrored the posture, his tail curling around his legs. Because you needed to understand something, Curlin. Your people have conquered many worlds. You've never met a species you couldn't intimidate or overpower, but humans ... we're different. Not because we're stronger or faster or more dangerous than you, but because we don't break. We bend, we adapt, we endure. And we make friends with those who respect us. The cub was silent for a long moment, processing. Then, in a gesture Jonas recognized from his studies, Curlin lowered his head, exposing the vulnerable scales of his neck, a sign of trust among Krell. You are pack, Curlin said quietly. Not prey. Not rival. Pack. Jonas reached out slowly and placed his hand on the cub's head, feeling the warm scales beneath his palm. Pack, he agreed. When they returned to the observation deck, Matriarch Eshrall took one look at her cub and then at Jonas's unmarked arm. Her frills flared in what Jonas had learned was profound respect. The cub has learned, she stated. We both have, Jonas replied. 3 months later, the Treaty of Mutual Prosperity was signed. The Krell Empire and the Terran Federation became allies, not through demonstrations of military might or threats of annihilation, but because a young cub learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their ships. It was that they simply wouldn't break. And they were patient enough to let others learn it for themselves.